Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Bryce and I are going to talk about your money today. We're going to talk about where to put your money so you can grow wealth. I'm excited to have this conversation, Bryce. I love talking about how do we take all of that hard work that we've done to earn that surplus of money, and what do we do with that money so that money can continue to create more money for us? And that is something that you do. Welcome to the show. Are you ready to have
Thanks.
a conversation?
Yeah, thanks for having me. No, this is great. Hopefully I can impart some sort of wisdom or tidbit or something that's beneficial to your audience. So thanks for having me.
I know you will. I know you will. So let's start by talking a bit about what you do in your business so our listeners have a frame of reference for your area of expertise.
Sure. So we're in real estate. I've got kind of a fairly traditional story. It seems like most people, most of the time, when they think of real estate, they think of like rental properties and having tenants and being a landlord and things like that. And we did all that for many years. So we were landlords, and then we kind of got tired of dealing with the tenants, and then we moved into flipping, which is very different from Chip and Joanna Gaines on HGTV, if you've ever seen. It's very, very different. And then over the years, we kind of got tired of that, and we moved into starting like a syndication or a real estate fund. And we help people invest in real estate now who either don't really know what to do with their money or want to be in real estate but don't want to be a landlord and deal with evicting tenants and phone calls in the middle of the night and all those things, which I completely get. So that's our main focus now. We love real estate. We're still in real estate, but just doing it in in my opinion, a more optimal passive manner.
I love it. So I've been a landlord. It's not something I would want to do
It's the worst.
again. Man, story I could tell. Seemed like a great idea, right? Seemed like a great idea until you see what happens sometimes after they leave, which you
Yes,
didn't know what was going on the whole time. Um, Scary sometimes. Uh, Definitely stressful at
absolutely.
times. And investing, real estate investing, like we hear about it. Everybody hears about it. How do people create wealth? Real estate. When I got my license, I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm going to get my license and it's going to be for our own investments. And then I was like, oh, this will be fun. I'll just do a couple deals here and there and, kind of, you know, took a crack at, selling some houses here and there. Pain in the ass. Wow.
Absolutely.
Tons of red tape. Um, I still invest in real estate, but like, that passive approach, like let someone else do it for me. There's money to be made, but you don't necessarily want that second job, managing it all,
Exactly.
figuring it all out. Let's talk about that, Bryce, because that does cause a lot of people to say, maybe someday, I've got this nice little nest egg here. I'd love to put it into real estate, but I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth to learn all of the skills, or I have heard these scary stories. I don't know if I'm ready to be, you know, a property manager and
Right.
deal with
Right.
tenants. So let's talk about it from your perspective because you've got a lot of experience in this area. Let's talk about how you can sort of bypass all of that messy stuff and get the benefits without as much of the stress and the headache and all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, I personally am a very hard-headed individual in the sense that like I'm like I want to do this myself. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna like get dirty. I'm gonna like get in there, swing hammers, and I did all that, you know. So like I started, like I said, like we were renovating all our own properties. We would go to work from 9 until 5, and then from 6 until 2 a.m. My wife would be there with me hanging drywall, doing tape and texture and painting, and it was exhausting. It was incessant. It was never ending, like just forever and ever and ever. And so, like I said earlier, we kind of transitioned out of that. We kind of went through the ranks. And I'm now at this point where I've had kind of this realization that I want to share with everyone. So think for example, you need surgery, something minor. Would you rather go to somebody who has done one surgery or someone who has done 1,000 surgeries? Obviously you're going to go with a person who's more experienced, right? But for whatever reason in real estate, you're like, no, I want to buy the house. I want to do this. I want to do all that. I want to own the property. I want to get my hands dirty. And I don't mean this to be offensive, but I tell people, look, you're not that good in the sense that, like, there are other people out there who do this professionally. It's not just a side hustle. It's not a side gig. Like, this is our day job. All day long, we are finding amazing properties. And most of the time, they're off market properties. They're people who are hoarders. They're people who are going through foreclosures, or people who are getting evicted, like all these different things. It's not just, I'm going to go on Zillow and find a house and see if the numbers work. And maybe, and most of the time, they don't. So I give all of that context in the sense that where I'm at now, I've gained enough insight and knowledge to realize, oh, you know what? Maybe in the beginning, I probably shouldn't have bought all the rentals and done all these things, because I became a landlord. Like you said, it's sometimes it's miserable, and you have some tenants who are not great and they trash the place, and then it's not very profitable. So all that to say, knowing what I know now, I would skip all of that and invest in something like this, because A, you don't have to do anything. B, someone who's doing it professionally and who knows what they're doing is the one who's running the fund and managing the operations and everything. And it just seems like a better way, in my opinion, to operate with the perspective that I have now.
I love that, and I so agree. Yeah. It seems so obvious when you think about it, and yet I see this a lot with people who are sort of in like those scrappy early days. The more someone has been in the trenches and created some success, the more they begin to adopt that other mindset of don't reinvent the wheel, don't try to learn it all. Go to the expert, hire the person who already has the skill set. In the beginning, when you've got more time than money, you're looking for cutting corners. How can I do this in a way that um, is realistic for me? Because maybe they can't afford. But we're talking to the people who they're probably busy with their business. And what you're looking for then is not to be scraping lists of realtors so that you can text 1,000 of them a day saying, hey, do you have any off-market
Right.
properties that you know about?
Yep.
They're all like, fuck you. Right? Take a hike. Um, it's that is a long, painful game. And if you don't know how to deal with some of the really challenging aspects of flipping, right? It could look like a great deal on paper until you find out that the septic isn't working properly, or the roof needs to be completely, replaced, and that's, 20, $30,000.
Right.
And if you don't know these types of things, ouch, big ouch.
Yes.
Um, and I love the analogy that you used, right? Do you choose the surgeon who's got one under his belt? For some people, yeah, they're going to take a 5-hour drive down to Mexico to go to the dentist to get the root canal where they can get it done for $50 because money is an issue,
Right.
right? But you also, are putting yourself in a precarious situation when you do that,
Plus your
right?
time, plus your gas, plus your hotel, plus this,
Exactly.
plus that. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right. And so For a lot of our listeners, what they're looking for is how can I get to where I want to be in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of headaches and still feel like I'm making a smart financial decision. So let's talk a little bit about the financial side because that's the only reason people are probably going to do
For
this,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
They're not saying, oh, I've just been spending my whole life thinking about investing in real estate. Right? A dream come true. Let's talk about the benefits.
Sure. No, I'd be happy to. The biggest thing for me, and we kind of already touched on this, is just like the time aspect. Just like you said, like all of the pieces that you've talked about, sending the 1,000 texts to the realtors and writing like handwritten letters and driving around and knocking on doors and talking to neighbors and going to sheriff sales and foreclosure auctions and things like that. Who has the time? Most people don't. Like I said, I do because that's what we do professionally. But if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is, you're typically a higher income earner. And the way that you're building your wealth is not from real estate, it's from your profession. So the goal is to use real estate as a vehicle to maintain and diversify your wealth rather than actually necessarily like be the breadwinner, be what's actually actively generating that income. And so many people are like they have this idea, and I did too naively. I was like, okay, if I make $200 from a rental property, I need 50 units so that I can make $10,000 a month, so I can replace my job, so we can do this. And the thing is that I've realized is that I know a lot of very successful real estate investors, but not a single one of them lives off of their rentals. They don't live off their rentals because in most cases they were successful business owners otherwise, and they're just like they have that persona and this mindset in the sense that like whatever they do is going to touch they is going to turn to gold, right? Like they're just it's just you're that kind of person. And if you're not, and I'm not saying that this opportunity is like perfect for everyone, but it's very much catered towards a person who's like, look, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to touch it. I just like I want to spend time with my kids and my family and do this. I want to go to work, and then I don't really want to worry about it or think about it for the rest of forever. If that's you, I'm your guy.
As business owners, how much do we desire to hear that from our employees and really like everyone? Like, hey, let me just take care of that for you, right? Your housekeeper. Hey, I got this, right?
Amazing.
Like,
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
just
And the
like,
first time you
please.
experience it, it's a game changer.
So let's let's take a couple steps back and let's talk about some of the myths and misconceptions, maybe the fears that people have that keep them from moving forward. So you and I just real briefly discussed this, analysis paralysis. Common phenomena, just the way the mind works, right? Too much information, you don't have clarity, it feels overwhelming to the system. Literally, like you just have to step away because you just can't, right? The mind is not able to sort it all out, figure it all out. There's too many missing pieces. So
Right.
let's talk about this. Let's talk about where people put this off for way too long because of misconceptions or misunderstandings that maybe you can just smooth out a little bit right here, right now for them.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, like you said, all too often we either have too much information or too little information that it's either overwhelming or underwhelming. And both situations lead to this just like paralysis state. You're like, I have too much information, I don't know what to do, or I don't have enough information, I don't know what to do. And in both situations, there's an opportunity cost. You're sitting there and you're like, I don't know what to do. And so you do nothing. So instead, you either let your funds sit there in a savings account earning 0.06% interest, which is like virtually nothing. Or if you're on the savvier end, you have it sitting there in like at least a high yield savings account. So you're basically keeping up with inflation, but it's still in both circumstances, you're not really doing anything at all. So I do like to talk about the opportunity cost with a lot of people. And I'm like, look, I sometimes agree that not doing anything could be better than making a wrong decision. In this case, I don't think so. I think there's for example, we have a lady that we work with now, and she started small with us, but she's now up to over $500,000 invested in our fund. And in the beginning, she was like, I didn't get it, I didn't understand, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I didn't like I was scared. And so for 18 months, she had $500,000 sitting on the sidelines, which is, granted, I realize that's a lot of cash. Most people don't have access to that much, but the analogy, the example still holds true. In that sense, that $500,000 would have earned her over $100,000. She lost 100 grand for that 18-month to 2 year period where she was just paralyzed because she's not there. So I agree. Don't make a rush decision. Don't rush into this. But there's also a cost from not getting started as well.
So, for those individuals who are thinking to themselves, do I have enough to get this process started? Or do I have to wait until I have $100,000, just sitting there, not earning, anything for me? What is a realistic starting point for someone who maybe they're not quite ready to go all in, like in a big way, but like this client that you were, she started a little bit smaller, and then
Absolutely.
so what does that look like?
Yeah, typically, so to be fair, we don't have a hard minimum. Typically we say around 50,000. The biggest reason for that is twofold. One, we want to cater to people who are already financially stable in some sense, in the sense that like if you're struggling to make ends meet, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's my personal opinion that you actually should not be investing. You need to get your debt under control. You need to get some other things figured out before you worry about investing. Like level up your skill set, make sure that you're like a decent income earner, and then we can worry about investing. The other thing too is I want to make sure that I'm not taking somebody's last dollar. I don't want to take funds from somebody who is scrimping the bottom of the barrel because again, we've never had an issue with like we've never lost a penny from investors. But there is an investment and there is an element of risk. And so if I took somebody's last penny and I lost it, I would feel horrible. And so for that reason, we do put those minimums there just to say like, make sure that you've got a firm, solid foundation under you, and then we can worry about growing your wealth as soon as you've got everything else, figured out and taken care of.
It's such a good approach. There are a lot of people, and we're obviously talking to business owners in a lot of different industries. And typically the people who listen to this podcast, they're good people. They're not the claw their way to the top, step on anyone they need to step
Backstabbing.
on.
Yep.
Exactly. Um, and that's a real internal value conflict for a lot of people. I even teach my sales team, trust your gut. Like, we're not here to sell people into things. We're here to be of service to people. And so there's this um, there's this balance that we all have to find within ourselves where we say, okay, let's take an honest assessment of where I'm at. Am I ready for this next level? You hear a lot of these stories in business, people talking about their personal development journey to creating massive success. And they are like, I maxed out all of my credit cards to take all of these programs and be in masterminds. And sometimes it works out for people, and a lot of times it doesn't. Not everybody is at that level where it's safe, right, and good psychologically, emotionally to take on risk that is optional. Now, some people have it in their mindset. They're like, I'm all in. I'm ready, you know. And they're sort of the minority because they are able to power through where a lot of people would be so stressed out. They would be, creating ulcers and fighting with their spouse and like there's no need to do that, right?
Right.
And I like that you have brought that sort of to the forefront. It's like, this is a really smart thing to do when you're at that level. That doesn't mean, though, that it won't be uncomfortable. For someone who has $50,000 sitting in an account somewhere and they're saying to themselves, maybe they've been saying to themselves for years, I'm going to put that money someplace smart. I'm going to invest that money. Um, it still can feel a little uncomfortable to be like, here's my money. you know Please, do something smart with it.
Be safe with it. Yeah.
Right. um so for someone who is at that place where maybe this is a little bit of a stretch for them, but they sort of intuitively know they're ready. Uh, this would be like the perfect time for me to ask how our listeners can connect with you. What is that next step to learn more, to get a little more educated, and maybe take the plunge?
Sure. Yeah. So, probably two main places. Our website is Holbrook Capital. If you go to holbrookcapital.com/invest, Holbrook is HOLBROOK, holbrookcapital.com/invest. It just goes over everything basically that we've chatted about here today. So that's probably the best place to start. Also, I try to stay quite active on Instagram, so you can feel free to shoot me a message. I'm just at Bryce Matheson on Instagram, and yeah, I'd be happy to chat. And I absolutely understand the hesitancy to wire hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars to some random dude on the internet that you've never met. That requires a lot of trust. So if anybody has questions, or just like, what do you do in this situation, or how does this work, like, I'd be happy to hop on a phone call and we can chat, and I can go over how we work and what we do, and all the above. But anyway, long story long, just yeah, DM or probably my website.
This is something that I personally, after not only many years of research, but just like personal experience, I highly recommend for, not for everybody. Some people, they love stocks. They get excited about, day trading and Forex and all of that stuff. But for a lot of us, that's that's just a game we don't have any business playing.
Agreed.
um, and real estate really is one of those investments that has the potential for incredible longevity. Does the market shift? Yeah, of course. We know it does. We know that there's inherently risk, but it is one of the safer risks that we can take. And certainly just having your money sitting there, hoping that you can collect more in interest than you lose.
Right,
You know,
right.
um, so I highly recommend that people explore it if it's something that they're leaning towards. They're interested, and that's just my little plug
Yeah.
for you and what you guys are doing in your business.
Well, and here's one last thing I will say. For example, we just bought a property for $130,000. It's a little A-frame cabin up near like a ski town in Idaho. Um, it's right now quite literally it's worth $350,000. Bought it for 130. Like, there's a humongous spread there. And so those are the types of deals that people are investing in when they invest in the fund. So think about trying to buy Apple stock or Tesla stock or whatever it is, 60 or 40 cents on the dollar. Like, if you could do that, everybody be jumping in that all day. But it's not as easy. Whereas with like a physical, tangible asset, like you can literally go and touch it, and you're a part owner in that. And so there's huge equity, there's tons of upside. It's a very, very safe investment. And so again, there I realize there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of people who are just like, I don't know, the markets or whatever. But when you have that large, significant buffer, you're able to weather a lot of storms, and you almost always come out on top.
Yeah. This has been a valuable conversation. We got a little deep on, some of the nuances of why people are not being more proactive. So much opportunity for people to put their money in a sound investment. Obviously, we always have to, talk about the fact that there is risk. There's risk in everything. As entrepreneurs, we oftentimes are dealing with the risk of, we're taking a bet on ourselves every single day. Um, in many cases, real estate is a much safer investment than being in business. That being said, I want to thank you, Bryce, for being with us today. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for having me. No, this has been a blast. So yeah, this is great. Thanks so much.
And thank you to all of our listeners. You know we're doing this for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.